Welcome to Disruption Now. I'm your host and moderator, Rob Richardson. With me is my brother, my friend, Cyrus Harbin. You probably know him. He's all over the place. Tech is the new black. He's really disrupting what it means to be in tech because tech is the new black. So I really like the fact that he is showing that anything is possible. All we got to do is change and disrupt our own mindset. Cyrus, good to have you on, brother.
Yeah, man, great to be on. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too, man. And been a big fan of yours. I told you offline, and I want to give you your praises in public. Like I've learned a lot from you, just about how you do content creation and how to go about being more organized about it. So I want to say thank you because you are one of the best, and I'm sure we're going to be doing more together.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Yeah. So let's actually get right to it. Tech is the new black. I know you've come from a journey that you weren't in tech. I think you were in the military. And you
Mhm.
were actually, I think, a Lyft or an Uber driver at one point, and then you made a transition into tech. And now you have a whole platform that is empowering people to be in tech. If you had to say, like in one sentence or very short, what is the purpose of Tech is the New Black?
Yeah, so the purpose of Tech is the New Black is to highlight no matter what industry you're in, no matter what your background is, no matter what your goals are, tech needs to be involved in some capacity, whether career, whether business, it needs to be involved or you will be obsolete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that that people really underestimate, and I think there's just this stereotype that it's okay to like, oh, technical stuff is for somebody else. That's not for me. When people tell you that stuff, obviously you hear it a lot. I could tell you hear it a lot. Like people say, well, I leave that to somebody else. Like I don't need to understand that tech stuff. When people say stuff to you like that, what's your comeback?
Uh, I mean, it's heartbreaking to hear that because I mean, well, we've seen it time and time again throughout history. We've seen people who, oh, the car is just a fad. Nothing's
Yeah,
going to replace the horse and carriages. You know, even the internet itself, like what we're on right now, people thought this was a fad, although this internet thing is just a fad in the 90s. And of course, when the dot-com bubble happened, it further gave those people ammunition. And look at where we're at now. And same thing with social media, and the list goes on and on. So when I hear people say that now, immediately I'm able to see that as a species we haven't fully evolved from that thinking. That is just there are some people that have evolved from that thinking, other people that will hold on to it, but then others that will at least be open-minded enough to allow themselves to evolve.
yeah. I also think that's it's a defense mechanism to feeling like they're because they don't understand it, people just shut down, right? So I think there's some of that there, and I think it's overly like complicated. So if you're talking to someone and they're saying like, look, tech is too difficult. It's for those really, really, really smart people. I believe some of this is tied to self-esteem, like and things like that. What,
Definitely.
yeah, what is their first step? If you had to advise them, like, what is the first step to getting into tech? What would that look like for someone who is not technical?
Well, first we have to look at, okay, what is the goal? Most people's goal is to increase their income, their net worth. And so if that's your goal, I'm very blunt and very straightforward. It's like, okay, look across the different jobs that you can do in tech. Because going back to what you're saying earlier, sometimes someone will think, oh, you have to be highly technical. Well, that's speaking of only half the roles in the industry. There are a myriad of roles in the industry that don't require any technical aptitude at all. Some that require some technical aptitude, and others, of course, that are very technical. So if someone's goal, most people's goal is, hey, okay, this is a job, a career, a business, whatever it might be. So at the end of the day, your ROI is your bottom line. So if that's the case, look at the various roles that I would say pay, whether starting out or even scaling wise, the most amount of money so you can get the most bang for your buck or the most bang for your time. And once you find those roles, simply put, just look at a brief description of each of them. And I'm of the belief that you don't necessarily need to love your job, but as long as you're doing something that you don't hate, that should be the
Yeah,
goal. That
yeah,
because at the end of the day, the thing that we should love is what we can do with that money, whether it's taking care of our family, whether it's setting ourselves up for freedom in the future. So that being said, finding roles that you can see yourself doing, and then in terms of actually getting the education, of course, we're in a different day and age now. We don't need to go to college to get in the tech industry or high level roles that are adjacent to the tech industry. I don't have a college degree. You can get education either via a boot camp or some type of a shorter, much more affordable ed tech program. So that's the best route to get in. I will die on that hill.
Yeah.
On that hill.
What's the most important skill to have once you enter tech? What do you think that is?
The most important skill to have in the industry, I would actually say two. I'll be a little greedy. And
That's okay. You can be greedy now. We're good. Yeah, yeah.
The most important skill, first and foremost, is work ethic. Because
yes.
no matter what you're doing in the industry, business owners are not paying you a high salary just to be nice. They're doing it because they are expecting you to be a person that is diligent and that you are a grown adult, and they're not there to hold your hand. They're expecting you to do what you need to do. So first and foremost, making sure that you are a hard worker. Whenever I see people that I know that they're not a hard worker, I don't encourage them to get into the industry. I encourage them to, as you mentioned earlier, make sure you have a mindset shift. Okay, you need to shift your mindset, shift your habits, really ultimately shift who you are. So first and foremost, having work ethic. The second piece to that is having a student mentality, meaning that you're a constant learner. This industry is very similar in a sense to the, being an attorney or being a medical doctor. And what I mean by that is a good medical doctor never stops studying, because there's new practices, new procedures, new laws that change, new medicines that they constantly, even sometimes after work, might have to do about 30 minutes to an hour of studying to kind of stay on top of things. Same thing with a lawyer. A lawyer, you get a new case. The laws are changing. You have to keep up with the law.
I'm a lawyer, former reforming lawyer. I said, it's like doing homework for a living, because it's true.
Yeah. Okay. So perfect. So, everybody, all y'all tuning in, y'all can literally see that, what I'm saying is truthful based on his background and experience. So that being said, this industry is very similar, where you need to have that student mentality. So be a hard worker, but also understand that in order to stay on top of this industry and the trends, is that you do need to make sure you have a student mentality, both in terms of being willing to learn from others, but also making sure that you are a self-learner yourself.
Yeah, Rodney Williams, who's been on this show, he's been on this podcast a couple of times, and is a multi entrepreneur in tech, very well known. He's also coming to MidwestCon, as well as Cyrus is coming to MidwestCon as well. He started Solo Funds, and before that, he started Listener, like using sound to detect data. But he said this on my podcast, and I never forgot it. He said the most important skill is to learn how to learn. Right. And like to really, and I was like, that's really, that to me was key. And I was talking to my cousin, who's basically like my son. I'm taking care of him. And I was going through with him this morning. I was going through an audiobook with him about financial freedom. And I was telling him, do you know what that means when I talked about financial literacy? And he said, I can look it up. I said, well, you can't look up how to think. So you need to understand and really understand how to think, because that's going to be the difference. You already said it, right? As technology evolves, like, it's not going to be enough for you to sit at a job and just do something that can be automated, including finance, including law. Like, you have to be able to learn how to learn.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So I would ask you, like, to me, it's you say, like, change that mindset of who you are, and it's changing habits, which are very hard to do, because we have a lot of bad habits. And right now I'm talking about the Black community in general, like in terms of, but everybody has some bad habits, but right now I'm focusing on us.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like, when it comes to establishing a good habit over a bad habit, what do you think is the most important place to start in terms of creating a good habit? What's the habit that you found is most successful for you? Let's go to that direction, because there are certain habits and routines that help stabilize or make it or help someone's success. What has been most impactful for you? What is that one or two habits that's made all the difference?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, the people that you surround yourself with. I mean, we know there are multiple quotes, whether Proverbs from the Bible or other
or Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle got one too. You know that, right?
What's his?
His is this, like, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. He said, if you hang around 10 broke Negroes, you're going to be the 11th. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes, I would say that the first thing definitely is the people that you are around. And so even myself, when I was a kid living in the ghetto, living in government assisted housing, one of the things that helped me even early on, that started dropping the breadcrumbs, the seeds that eventually are now sprouting, was that even though I was living in a certain environment, I didn't really hang with the people in that environment. I actually would oftentimes leave. I would get picked up by this church group that would take me to a nicer part of town. And early on, just being around them, there was a stark contrast between the way that they spoke, the way that they treated each other, the things that they like to talk about, versus when I would go back home, and the things that people in my neighborhood or even in my household were talking about, the way that they thought. So I would say the first thing is definitely looking at, okay, who you are hanging around and their mindset. And even if they're not financially savvy at the time, again, it's more of them having goals, them having aspirations, and also the things that they are spending their time doing. So first off, I would say people. The second thing is, what are your actual habits? Now, again, having certain people in your life will encourage you to work on your habits, because you will see the things they're working on, and naturally by default is going to inspire you to do the same. So the next thing is those habits. What are your actual habits? And looking at, okay, what am I actually doing? So for example, I remember where I would spend just ample amount of time on YouTube, and I would just be watching videos breaking down things happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the DC or comic books, things like that. And I would spend hours doing that. One of my friends told me, because I ended up becoming a huge nerd in about a span of 6 months. Right. And he was like, man, Cyrus, you're such a sponge. He was like, man, I realized if you shifted your time from learning all of this comic book stuff, if you shifted that habit into something else, you could master any other topic. And I'm not unique in that aspect. No. That's most of us. That's everybody.
That's the human brain, like literally. So there's a book that's on this. I think it's about the power of habit. You can't actually get rid of habits. You can only replace a bad habit with a good one. So that backs up what you're saying.
Yeah, precisely. And to that point, one of the books that I started reading, I was a person that wasn't reading many books. So one great habit is to read books. People talk about it. No matter how advanced we are getting in society and technology, books, education is a key factor. And the most successful people aren't successful just because they read books. They're successful because they continue to still read books. It's the habit of what you do.
Yep.
And so the education piece, so again, changing those habits, shifting what it is you're doing. There are so many people in talking about us. Many people that look like us will spend so much time on the shade room, or so much time looking at gossip blogs, or watching reality TV where it's full of drama. And nothing's wrong with education. I mean, excuse me, not education.
Entertainment and balance.
Yes, and balance. But in reality, it's, man, if you shift that. Now what happens is that when people shift it, they're thinking, man, this is boring reading these books. Yeah. This thing is boring doing this thing. But what's actually unique about human beings, the way that we've been designed, is that if we continue to stay at something and continue to go the path, eventually our brains start to get tricked into thinking, the reason why I continue to do this thing that I don't like must be because deep down I actually like it.
That's right.
That's right. Brain starts to like it. It's like working out or fitness.
That's right.
Most people do not like running. But if you stay dedicated to being a runner, eventually over time, you will get a runner's high.
And that's true. And the reverse is true too, right? So if you stay in a mindset where you don't grow, you struggle at things, you don't try anything new, you assume that I'm not smart, I can't be technical, I can't do these things. And so you hack your brain in another way that most of us don't understand, like you said, subconsciously, because we got the wrong habits. And so really fundamental point, and I think what you're saying, I agree, is the first step is, who the hell are you around? Number one, right? Because there's scientific evidence to back up everything you're saying. When you talk about who you're around influences who you are, like we got the biblical, we got the sayings, but then there's also the fact that we have scientific evidence that shows that the people you surround yourself with, even if you try to think differently from them, your brain literally rewires itself to think like the group.
Man, that's true. That is good.
It's scientifically true. It's been proven.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And I love the component where we talk about getting in this industry, scaling in this industry, that I've seen people get in this industry, especially if we're talking about people that look like us, where they started the habits to get in the industry, but then they quickly diverted back to their old habits, their old group of people, started hanging around certain people. One of the things that I noticed when I got in the industry and online, when people started being able to look at visible things and be like, hey, it looks like this guy's making a bunch of money, I started getting invited, and still do to this day get invited to all of the mansion parties and with all of the influencers, lifestyle influencers. And what I started to notice, I had to pull back because a lot of them are great people, but I realized, okay, you know what? They make their money different. They have different lives.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say whether or not what they're doing will continue to go up or not. Nevertheless, I realized, okay, they don't have certain habits that allow me to get to where I'm at. And I'm noticing that it's starting to rub off on me. So I had to pull back because I had to realize, yo, I won't maintain this. Just because I got this doesn't mean I'm going to keep
it. What got you there won't get you there. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. And so I think one of the biggest things within our culture and our community when it comes to getting in this industry is understanding that we are more than intelligent enough. We are more than capable. But a lot of it comes back to what we've associated ourselves to that we consider our culture. And unfortunately, we've accepted bad habits and we say that that's our culture instead of realizing no, these bad habits are not our culture. We cannot say that our culture is necessarily these negative things. We have to separate these things from our culture. I mean, we've seen many of our Latino brothers and sisters that have been doing a really good job of that, where many of the things that happen, that are seen to happen in the Black community, happen in their communities as well. Nevertheless, you see more and more of their community leaving that behind and saying, no, that's not our culture. Those are things that happen in some of our communities, but that is not our culture. We want to allow ourselves to associate our culture with those things. They've been doing a phenomenal job in terms of making those advancements. And I am excited to see us do the exact same thing. Well, and I believe not just being in this industry, but again, going back to the things we were talking about when it comes to mindset, when it comes to hanging around different people, those are the stepping stones for us to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm curious to what you think about some future trends coming up and future disruptions, or really current disruptions. And of course, I'm talking about AI. Like, what do you, let's say in 2040, what do you see as the best case scenario when it comes to AI in the Black community? And what is the worst case scenario?
So best case scenario, I don't believe there's ever been a better time for our community to be able to, I don't even want to use the term generational wealth because I think that's such an overused cliche term, but I don't believe there's ever been a better time for us to truly be able to advance. And like I look over at the Indian community and, you know, Japanese Americans, Indian Americans, Nigerian Americans, and how they have advanced to, you know, they've advanced to where now they're out earning the average white American.
Yep.
A huge part of that reason, the majority of the reason, is because the two industries they all pursue is the medical field and the tech field. And so within that, the same way they've been able to advance and grow and level up within this nation, we have that same opportunity, but even more now with AI, because there are very few AI experts. And AI in and of itself, in terms of the advancements of what's happening with generative AI, and you know, we could list a bunch of companies, a bunch of different companies, but nevertheless, it's something that is not just new in a sense, but also it's still changing and evolving so quickly that even the experts are not experts in a sense that they have to stay on top of the changes. So now what does this mean for us? This means we have an opportunity to become the experts. Within 2 years, everyone watching this can be an expert in the space. And of course, being an expert in this space isn't just a cute thing. There is a monetary benefit attached to that.
Absolutely.
There is a success in a variety of ways that are attached to that. So whether we're talking someone getting a career, whether leveraging AI, prompting AI, using AI even within their role and becoming a thought leader in their respective field of work, that's one sense. But then we can go on the other angle and talk about equity. where now we have different startups and tech companies that where their foundation is AI. They might even consider themselves an AI company or startup. Where now you getting at a company that has a promising future. Of course, there's no guarantee that a company
No,
is going to be a NVIDIA. Nevertheless,
it's unlikely, but that's not the goal. That's fine. That's an aspiration, but the goal is freedom and options. And you don't
yes,
need to be a billionaire to have freedom and options.
exactly, precisely. And so not only do we have the opportunity in terms of career wise, but also in terms of equity within these promising companies, where of course when the company goes public or whatever, just the overall returns of that, how much of a blessing that can be to us and our families. But then we have the other layer. We have the layer of we can become founders of our own AI startups.
Yep.
Now, I'm not going to recommend someone who doesn't have any experience in the tech industry to try to do that next week. Nevertheless, again, we have a positioning to where whether you're getting in this industry or you are just getting the education that's within this industry, we have a foreseeable future that if we take advantage of this opportunity that's within front of us, the year 2040, we can be in the top 3 earners in the United States of America, completely transforming our lives and ultimately benefiting the entire nation. Because as you know, a rising tide raises all ships. As we
Absolutely.
elevate, we grow, it benefits the entire nation. So that's best case scenario.
Yes.
That I'm excited about. Worst case scenario is that we're in a 10 times worse position than we're in now. Because when we look at many of the lower, not just lower paying jobs, but also jobs where it's not favorable jobs. We'll say it that way.
But even if I can, I know what you mean. You're talking about working class repetitive jobs. That's true. I would also say though, there's a lot of jobs that traditionally weren't considered safe that will also be challenged too. So just because you're gonna be an average accountant, it's probably gonna be rough for you because I can use data and just say and do that, right? If you're an average accountant. Now, if you're a good accountant or you're a good lawyer, you're good, but no one's going to hire you as a lawyer to figure out how to do a basic filing. Like why? Like I can literally look at Chat GPT, ask some questions, Google, do a little bit of work and save $10,000. Like no one's paying you $10,000 to file their paperwork to be a company. At least I hope they don't. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. Right. So it's got to be, I think everybody got to level their game up. This is going to be a different world. That's what I think.
Definitely. No, I agree 100%. To the worst case scenario, those, because that accountant that will be replaced at some point, they have best case and worst case scenario too, where that accountant can learn a lot of this technology and these tools to where now, instead of them being replaced, now they are, it's kind of like the Willy Wonka thing of what happened where not Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It was the second one, the one where it was Johnny Depp was playing Willy Wonka. There was something that happened in the movie with Charlie's grandfather, uncle, where he had lost his job. He had lost his job to a robot. Like they had some automation that replaced his job. At the end of the movie, they had to wrap everything up with a nice bow and make it cute. At the end of the movie, his happy ending, his uncle or grandfather's happy ending was that, hey, he actually got a better job. His new job is he's fixing the robot that replaced him whenever it breaks down. So now he ended up getting paid more. That's where we are at right now. Absolutely. Where we are either have the opportunity to be the person where, okay, we are implementing the technology, we're investing in the technology, or we're creating the technology, or we will be replaced by it. And even when we talk about our communities that are in poverty, that are living in the hood, many of them, going back to the whole head in the sand type of thing, they are seeing these things on social media and they're just like, again, they're just thinking it's a fad. They're thinking, okay, we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to think about it. This is going to go away. Worst case scenario, many of us, I'm sure many people that are tuning in watching this are familiar with the term universal basic income. This is not a theoretical thing. This is a thing that both government as well as some of the top tech leaders, industry leaders, billionaires are all discussing, because they know that this is a guaranteed future where essentially on average, the way that I look at it is that it reminds me of when I was a kid and I was living in government assisted housing in neighborhoods. essentially on a basic level, that's what we would be looking at, where now we're not talking about 10% or 20%. We're talking about 50, 60% of Americans living that way, where we talk about, the middle class being destroyed. It really will destroy the middle class, where you are either rich, super rich, or you are in poverty or living on universal basic income. So worst case scenario that I see for us is that we lose any opportunity to invest in this technology, in these companies. We lose opportunity to even work in this industry. We lose any type of network connections, resources to even be able to create our own AI startups, or at that point in time, it might be something else that's going on, a robotic startup, whatever that might be. So again, we are in the best time right now.
Because we are at the best time. I would say, because I ask politicians this question too, in terms of what's your best case, what's your worst case scenario, because the problem I have is a lot of our political leaders have no clue, zero clue. Like they have zero knowledge, like they're at like -10. And it's a problem because, AI is not new. Algorithms are not new. And part of what's happening and what has happened is that, they're being used to divide and manipulate. And right now it is the greatest opportunity. I agree. But it won't stay that way. And I'm gonna give one quick example as we get ready to go towards wrapping up. When Facebook first started, so we've been through multiple levels of the internet. So just give me 1 sec, because people need to understand this, right? First, we went through the basic, where it was just a basic interactive. We couldn't do much except for see the website, have something on there. Then we went to this read and write back and forth, the centralized, mostly the phase we're in right now, where it's like, you get a chance to do social media. Facebook was created, Airbnb. These folks created a lot of data, which has all been used to train artificial intelligence. Okay. And now we have a new opportunity to build new apps within these artificial intelligence owned models, right? And OpenAI and others. When Facebook first started out, Cyrus, you may or may not know this, a lot of businesses became like millionaires quickly by building quick APIs into Facebook and to these other platforms. And they made a lot of money, but Facebook shut that off. And then you can't do a lot of that stuff now. And they took all their data, and then they ended up finding ways to keep that data to monetize further. Everyone went to just saying, oh, let me put everything on Facebook and not let me understand and keep these personal connections. So I want everybody to listen to me. Artificial intelligence is neither artificial nor intelligent, right? It can never be authentic. And so we got to learn the technology and use it to help leverage what we're doing. That's all I got to say. So
you dropped so much heat right there. So much heat. And I think to that point, that's one of the things that our community really needs to know, that even when, I'm so happy you said that, because even those of us that are like, okay, let me go ahead and start using this technology, let me start learning about it. It is so important that we understand how to make sure that we are keeping data and keeping and tracking things.
That we own our own data.
Yes.
That we build on private source and open sources too, not just the things that are nothing. Listen to me. None of this stuff is free. The reason why ChatGPT is free is because you're the product.
Yes.
So just at least understand that. Doesn't mean don't use it. That means understand it and understand how to make sure you're keeping what you're building.
Yeah.
Because that's that. So last couple of minutes, kind of ask some kind of final wrap up questions here. So what's an important truth you might have that few people agree with you on?
Oh, that's a good question. An important truth that I have that few people agree with me on. Man, this all right, this is my truth. I'm gonna stick in it. Racism, sexism, and a myriad of other biases exist. They exist. They are real. The people that think that they don't exist anymore are wrong. But at the same time, the people that make that their identity are also wrong. The people who believe that we're ever going to reach a point in life where racism, sexism, any of these biases are going to be eliminated, you're delusional. That's something I truly stand in. The best thing is not to focus on the problem, but to focus on your goals, focus on everything that you're pursuing. Because the same way, the same area, the same hoods and places that I grew up in, that I lived at, the same people that I was around where they held on to this thing of, oh, the white man is holding us back and is gonna keep us down. Yes, there is racism across government, across corporate, all of that. But if you believe that there is a group of people that are hell-bent and focused on keeping you back, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, at the end of the day, the results of your life are completely up to you and what you choose to do. So you can continue to focus on these negative things.
You good? Go ahead.
Yeah, you can continue to focus on these negative things, or you can say, the hell with it. Whatever's going on, I'm still going to succeed. And I promise you, if you're the person that says that hell with it, I'm still going to succeed, you will succeed.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Final thing. Why are you excited to be at MidwestCon this year?
I mean, there's not like one reason. There's a few reasons. I'll lay out just a few reasons. First and foremost is because there are a lot of great conferences, events, and things that are happening. But specifically when it comes to the group of people that you're putting together, whether we're talking not just people that are technologists, not just founders, but also people that are politicians or in the government side of things. It honestly is the perfect marriage, if I would say it that way, in terms of networking, where oftentimes if you're at a tech event and it's just techies, it's kind of like you're in a bit of a bubble. Or if you're at a political event, like you mentioned earlier, most politicians are not aware of like technology in a real sense, in a real tangible sense. And so what I'm excited about when it comes to MidwestCon is that it's putting all of the people in the room. So that way now we're having conversations across the table. And now we're having real networking, not networking that's just, that's just kind of like the up and down, but in terms of also us being able to grow across different industries and different fields, different connections, different relationships. So that's the thing I'm excited about, because me personally, I'm talking about me, I've gotten very used to going to just tech events,
right,
where it's just techies. And at this point, I'm kind of like, all right, what's really the purpose at this? Versus what has me excited about MidwestCon is to meet people in different industries, different spaces, different professions, different connections, where now I know, okay, I'm going to have real opportunity, real growth being there. So that's my thing that I'm most excited about.
Well, we're looking forward to see you. It's midwestcon.live. If anybody on this broadcast wants to check it out, September 4th through the 6th. I promise you we're going to have, if you want to learn and be trained more on AI, we have something for you. If you want to learn about policy, we have something for you. If you want to see people that are disrupting technology for social impact, we have something for you. But we're always about disruptors like Cyrus. And I look forward to being on Tech is the New Black as well. It's good to have you on Disruption Now. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please subscribe. We appreciate it. If you're listening to us on a podcast, please also subscribe. Give us a review. That's how people can learn more about the disruption that we're creating. And Cyrus, as always, man, I appreciate what you do and look forward to working with you more, bro.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man.